Hello. Hello, my friends. I have a story today that is actually illustrated. So, we are at this moment in the pulse of Gene Key 25. And Gene Key 25 is all about acceptance. And in the dream arc, it's the lion is loving self-acceptance. So that lion represents that beautiful, loving, caring, nurturing part of us that accepts ourselves and accepts everything that life brings to us. I am in the Sage's Golden Path Journey Retreat, and at this point we are in our Radiance Sphere. So we have done the life's work, we have done the evolution sphere, and we are now in the radiance. And we have, with each of these spheres, we have gotten ahead of time the beautiful Sage's codes that come in the form of words and sutras for our specific line gene key combination. So, for instance, in my life's work, I am a 34, gene key 34.6. And that particular combination, the word is integration. And so it's like an acupuncture energy point. My life's work is about integrating everything. So coming from the inside, it would be about integrating all of the parts of me, the disparate parts of me, bringing them together into a whole. So I'm weaving these little threads here. We've got self-acceptance, we've got integration. All right, so that's my life's work. Then we move into our evolution. And in this evolution, I have the Gene Key 20. That's the programming partner to 34. And Gene Key 20 is all about, at the shadow level, superficiality. At the gift level, it is self-assurance. And at the acidic level, it's presence. And I chose as one of the words for my year this year, presence. So always in the back of my mind is this thought that I want to be present in the moment. And when I am moving through a lot of emotional turmoil, which has happened over the last month plus, I tend not to want to be present because I don't love feeling my feelings. Okay, I've been trained out of feeling my feelings. I've had to learn how to feel my feelings, and I have quite turbulent emotions. I even have Gene Key 36 in my emotional quotient, which is all about turbulent emotions at the shadow level. So I have this tendency to want to escape my body and not feel my feelings. And I have been working very diligently at shifting that behavior because it doesn't serve me. If I don't feel my feelings, I am not ever going to learn from them, and all I'm going to be is always in resistance to them. And then I'm not aligned. I am not in equanimity. I have no equilibrium. I have no core stability. I am always fighting against what is. So to be present, I need to feel my feelings. One of those feelings that comes along with a lot of thoughts and a lot of pre-programmed, corrupted thoughts is my body size. I have been creating a class where I'm making a lot of videos showing how to create art as a way to illustrate your inquiry questions, your inner work questions. And so I've been watching myself on video a lot. And I watch myself get up out of the chair, and I go and get something from the other side of the room, and I look at myself and I go, who is that woman? Who is that woman who is stooped over and has big ass. Who is that? And I realize it's me, of course. And I am almost shocked because that's not how I envision myself when I think about myself on the inside. I don't think of myself as, well, I don't think of myself as old, even though I have wrinkles and age spots and white hair. I was a redhead. I imagine myself much different than the way my physical body looks. And in the weight area, I judge it because of past programming. So I'm sitting there going, okay, how I am in this pulse of acceptance, this loving self-acceptance, and I am integrating parts of me. I want to integrate that part of me that is judging. I want to integrate that part of me that's judging, and I want to integrate that part of me that sees itself very differently, and I want to bring them together. And so I was holding those parts of me kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum, wanting to bring them more into focus, into if not being friends, at least being in the same space and letting go of the judgment of whatever it is my body looks like right now. I'm still me. I'm still the me that I love, and it just happens to be in this particular costume right now. As I was thinking about that, I was also another integrative thread. You see, I'm bringing all these threads together and weaving them together because integration is my life's work. So I was watching a show that took place in 1946 in London. So it's after the war. There are big, sites where the bombs have gone off. It's called Bookish, and I highly recommend it. So I had that 1940s vibe just in my essence, and it's about books. Part of it takes place in an antiquarian bookshop. And so I thought, here I am in my radiance, and all of a sudden I thought, this radiance, this irreverence belongs in that time period for some reason. Now, all of this, because the radiance is our unconscious, the radiance and the purpose are in our unconscious. The life's work and the evolution are in our conscious. These are in our unconscious. So I have this unconscious, this I don't know why. I guess the reason I'm saying it's unconscious because I don't know where it came from or why it came out. But I thought about this gene key 40 and this irreverence actually lives in 1946, England after the war. What if I created a portrait of this woman who is plump, who has a Rubenesque body, and she's perfectly happy in her beautiful body? What if I did that? And I thought, of course, I don't have the skills to do that. I'm not an illustrator. And I thought, well, I do have AI. And I have to tell you, I've gone through a lot of stages with AI. I used to create my avatar all the time with all the different DreamArc animals. I spent a lot of time doing that. I created a whole deck of cards using AI. And then I realized that I have some moral and ethical problems with AI. But I'm also not willing to dump it, just get rid of it. So I've come to the point where I just use it very sparingly. Okay. And this was a very powerful way to use it for me. I decided to create a portrait of a gene key 40.2, which is that irreverence. And I decided to let my subconscious come out while I'm, programming in what I wanted in this portrait. I wanted her in a bookshop. I wanted her holding a cat. That's the dream arc animal for Gene Key 40. She needed to be holding a cat. She needed to be round. She needed to have curves. She needed to be a redhead, and or perhaps my white hair, but it needed to be a 40s kind of style. And her look was, she had to be older, not a young person. Her look needed to be, well, a little slightly irreverent, definitely mysterious, and yet have this sense of the world being much more mysteriously exciting than we give the world credit for. Okay. She has so much knowledge in her. So how to program all of that into an AI generator was quite the challenge. So I'm, because you have to put in the color of the hair, and you have to put in what's the color of the cat, and, books, and, you have to choose, do you want a watercolor style? Do you want it to be cinematic? So I refined it down over and over and over again. I probably did about maybe as many as 9 versions of this woman saying, oh no, that's the wrong style. Oh no, that's not the right look. And then, of course, I'm not even sure what the right look is supposed to be. So I just had to keep experimenting. And finally, boom, this image came up. And I went, that is her. That is my Gene Key 40.2 in flesh, or in portrait, right? As I was creating this, I thought, if this turns out, I need to do my other Sage's lines as well. And, here she is, this beautiful 40.2 woman, Irreverence. Let me read what goes along with Irreverence. Awakened, subversive humor that celebrates the reversal of traditional views. So here we have a woman in the 40s who is so has so much self-integrity there. Reversing, our idea of what women might have been like at that time. But in a way, that was a beautiful time for women because the men were all off at war. So the women were venturing out into industries that they'd never been in before, into, fixing vehicles and, scientific areas that they hadn't been allowed in before, but that was the only workforce that was available. So it was actually an interesting time. Now my mind is trying to put meaning onto what my subconscious, my unconscious recognized as this woman for me. And the whole purpose for me was to find this honor and beauty in a person who was round like me, who has carries the same kind of weight as me. Now, you're not seeing her whole body, but there's enough a weight in her face, there's enough weight in her arms that I recognize her. I recognize her body. She has a voluptuous ass, just like I do. And she has hips that can carry children, So, and she probably has children, and not all of them might have survived the war, right? Anyway, I'm not going to continue reading this because we were gifted these words and these sutras in the retreat, but the book is not coming out for another year, and so it is copyrighted material, and I don't want to give it away. However, as I was sharing this with my teacher, Haley Curtis, I showed all 3 of the different portraits that I did, and she was just awestruck with the idea of a visual person like myself being able to use these as portals. Portraits as portals. So, that woman doesn't look like me. but she is imbued with the essence of that particular 40.2 energy. And I can use the portal of, at this point, what's her backstory? How is it that my unconscious put together 1946 England with a bookstore to illustrate this? What is the portal there? Why, how is this? And then, of course, I personally have all the words that go with Irreverence. I have the contemplation and the mythos that illustrate this even more. And it talks about, bringing together angels and demons, our angelic side with our demonic side, our mistakes with our successes, and seeing them all as equal in the eyes of God, really, is what this particular set of 40.2 is. And how is it that this woman visually represents that to me, and how can I bring my own loving self into recognizing this plump woman? I had finished this woman in the 1940s, and I thought, I'm just going to go backwards. I'm not jumping back to my life's work. I'm going to go backwards. So Radiance going backwards hits the evolution sphere, and the pathway of breakthrough is in between the two. My evolution sphere, by its very nature, means this is what I am evolving into. But I'm not evolving into the understanding of the shadow. It's the biggest challenge I have is shifting that shadow into its gift. So that's where the evolution lies. So I'm shifting. This is Gene Key 20.6. So I'm shifting from superficiality. And this is an everyday thing for me. I'm shifting from superficiality into self-assurance, which leads then to presence. I personally, when I was programming in the AI description of this woman, was thinking that of all of these three spheres I'm working on at the moment, I am not necessarily, I am really feeling the shadow. Let's put it that way. I am really feeling how often I am in superficiality and instead of reaching for that presence. And so that informed the words that I put into this. I knew when I came to the blank canvas, so to speak, I knew that I wanted her, this woman, to be skinny, almost scrawny skinny. And I wanted her to be wearing pedal pushers and a cotton blouse, And then I thought, wait a minute, this woman, is she in the 1960s? No. Superficiality. We're going into the 1950s. I placed her in the 1950s. And where else would pedal pushers be? And you noticed, we call them cropped pants now, but they were called pedal pushers in the past. 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 So I have images of my mother as, I was born in 1956. So I have images of her in the late 50s in her pedal pushers. Anyway, so I knew she needed to be in this outfit, right? And I decided to go with not the red hair, but with my hair turned white already. And I'm not even sure how I worded it, but I wanted this woman to show that superficial nature. I wanted her to have a superficial smile because she didn't know any better, really. I wanted her to hold that great divide between this superficial nature who is taking all of this reality seriously, that this is the only reality, that we are in this reality. There's nothing else. It's true and real. And it's, the Maya she is totally engrossed in the Maya, this great theatrical production that is life on earth. I didn't want her to have any inkling of a larger presence of God. Okay. My irreverence knew. My irreverence had seen enough through the war that she definitely knows that there is something greater out there, and that there's more to this pageantry of life than meets the eye. Okay, so, and that makes sense, since for 40, the city is actually divine will. So she has had enough moments. This 1940s voluptuous woman has had enough moments of recognizing divine will coming through her life, that she knows that secret. I wanted in this evolution for this woman to, and the tears are coming because my AI generator created her in the first try. And I burst into tears when I saw her. I just put in that clue that, I wanted her to have a, superficial smile, but yet be, at the same time, have an essence of innocence. That essence that just might hold the key to it all. And the AI generator did it. I'm using a photorealistic style. I let go of the watercolor, and I don't know how it did it, but it did it for me. There's within her that superficial smile, but there's just, I'm not even sure where it is in her face. I knew that I had to program in what she was holding, because otherwise her arm, they might choose something I didn't want her to have. So that classic rattan bag, that she's holding, and I had to put her, my God, it's a superficiality is the word here. So I had to put her at a fair. I had to put her at a county fair or something where she's out. There's the Ferris wheel, there's the merry-go-round, where it's so clearly around her the theatricality and ridiculousness of life, and she's buying into it. That's the shadow, right? The word that goes with this 20.6 is cosmic joke. That's what she is. Not what she is. She is not a cosmic joke. What she's buying into could be the cosmic joke, but that's not what he means. The word that what goes with cosmic joke is the potent realization that our deepest questions are unanswerable. This woman wants all the answers, and she thinks all the answers is all around her in the physical reality that she's living. She's a good mother. She works on the PTA. She is doing all the things she's supposed to do as a housewife after all the men have come back from war and got their jobs back. She's doing all the things that a housewife is meant to do. And I realized after doing this, I actually just painted my mother at the time that I was born. And then, when my brothers were born. And she thought that would be a fulfilling life, to have children, to raise them. But I've read her letters from that time. She was so depressed because she saw she was meant for way more than being a housewife. Okay. Some women, and I'm not saying anything bad about being a housewife, but I am saying something about that time of life that put women like this into a box of housewiferiness, that was supposed to be enough. when you choose it because that is who you are within, then that's a whole different thing than being forced into a box. So this woman has been forced into this box of superficiality. And she thinks she's supposed to be satisfied with it. She hasn't quite yet started coming into herself and finding a sense of self-assurance. The dilemma for Gene Key 20 is self-awareness, the lack of self-awareness. This is showing the lack of self-awareness. And what a portal for me to move into. Is this who I want to be? How did my unconscious bring this image up? By just my typing out my description of this. Is this who I... No, it is not. I want to take this woman, I want to sit her down, and I want her to look inside of herself, and I want her to see how much more there is to life than this superficial Maya we see every day. But then I want her to find that self-assurance, which is the gift, and find some presence where she's not worrying about what she's cooking for dinner that night, and when she's not worried about what her kid's getting on the report card. Or at this age, she probably is thinking about her grandkids, because she's aged enough to have grandkids. What am I bringing my grandchild from the fair? And so I want to almost shake this woman and say, you are so much more than this. What else is within you? And then take what else is within you, and that self-assurance and that deep presence that you have the capacity for, to this family that you have nurtured, and to this world that you have created of PTA meetings. What have you brought you to a PTA meeting? Not just what you think should be happening in a PTA meeting, but you yourself, your presence. Anyway, so this is really a portal image for me in a whole other way. Okay. I found it interesting that my overweight self lived in my radiance. And it does make some sort of sense, in the sense that the dilemma in my radiance key of 40 is excess. So where is it that I am in excess the most? I would have to say in my overeating, which then, of course, creates the body that I have. And I have moved so very patiently and slowly through lovingly accepting not only the way I look and how my body seems to want to be at this age, but also at my eating. And I know the cause and effect, and I'm not militantly wanting to change my figure. I spent decade upon decade upon decade since I was a teenager with an eating disorder. Disordered eating is what they call it now. And with, dieting versus overeating. And I don't want to get back into that struggle, because that would not be kind to myself. So I am working instead on just loving my food, loving my body, loving me the way I am now. And so I think I've been looking at my chart for a long time, trying to find where the overeating has come from. Disordered eating, which would have been the binging, starving. Binging's way over here in Gene Key 40 in my radiance, okay? Isn't it interesting that I subconsciously thought about this woman in my Gene Key 20, I am looking, by the way, at an image in this Gene Key 20 as she needed to be skinny. She needed to be slim. And of course I've placed her, I mean, she's very much my mother-ish. So that mother voice. So I was almost like, here's the dieting and the starving over here in 20, and the binging over here in 40. And you know, how are they interacting? How would these two women react to each other? You know, I have that pathway of breakthrough between them. There's a whole other portal to explore here. Not only that, the portal of my mother. I placed it I placed this woman in the time when my mother was raising me as you know, an infant. So what portal does that open up, right? So I don't have answers, but I think it's exciting to have the portal, the portrait portal. Now, last was my integration, which is my life's work. So last was my life's work, and it's Gene Key 34.6. And my word is integration. Gathering the lost children of one's sufferings and giving them a home within the soul. That is so beautiful. So it was time to create a prompt to illustrate that for me. And once again, I'm allowing my subconscious, my unconscious to come up. Where is this woman? A time didn't come up. I didn't feel like there was a specific time involved, as in history, time history. It was more a matter of place and activity. This Gene Key 34 is incredibly physical. The bear is the dream arc animal. The emu is the dream arc bird. The emu is a guardian, and a very physical guardian. So I just felt this needs to be physical. And so I thought, well, she's on stage. She's on stage, but not as an actor. She's on stage because it's integration. She's on stage as a director and designer, both, like Julie Taymor, who, you know, designed Lion King. I mean, she directed and designed the costumes, and it was amazing. So, I mean, there's a Julie Taymor kind of woman who has her clipboard, and she's out there doing a scenic review of what's going on the stage. And I did put in auburn hair here, but I'm not sure that I also wanted a scarf on her head, and I wanted her to dress somewhat bohemian-like. And I remembered when I was in the Life's Work in January, and Richard Rudd said, play is a form of integration. So I thought, absolutely, play is a form of integration. So here I am making a play. I wanted the portrait to be of a woman deeply involved with creating a theatrical experience. And yet that great joy that comes from creativity beaming out of her face. So somehow I crafted the words just right to come up with this woman. And I thought, yes, that's the face. That is the face. And of course, she's totally different than me. You know, look at that much deeper toned skin, and that more athletic kind of body. And yet, the minute I saw it, it was the first one and only one I did for this. The minute I saw it, I burst into tears, knowing that she was right for integration. And part of me, my perfectionistic part, said, but she's missing a sleeve. And another part of me said, You'll never get as perfect an expression as that. Who cares if she's missing a sleeve? That's part of the interesting story. Why is she missing a sleeve? Is she missing a sleeve? Is she not just in a shirt that is one-sleeved? I don't know. But the other thing that was interesting to me is that this integration, the sutra talks about the cords of freedom, and it talks about an arrow we shoot ahead of ourselves. And I thought, oh, well, she's just ready to shoot an arrow. You don't want that sleeve getting in the way of shooting an arrow. So anyway, she's staying. And who cares what she looks like? Look at that face. Such joy, such energy, such physicality. And there's those set pieces behind her, and she's another portal, because I'm sitting there going, what kind of production is this? What does she like to work with? How is that integration working in her life? I mean, I see integration working in my life in the way I do make my art, other than internal integration. I am in an integrative art. I do art journaling. I take images from magazines and words from books, and I do mixed media. I bring all of these disparate elements together to make my art. That's integration in an artistic level. How is she? In a sense, that's what a theatrical director will do. They'll take, they are expressing the meaning of the piece of art they're doing through costumes, through sets, through music, through acting, through script, through lighting. It's an integrative art. And I've been in theater for many of my lifetimes. That's what it feels like when you're 69. Many of my earlier years were spent on stage. So this is a perfect, I think, for my life's work and brand. And so, yeah. So these are portals. Each of them has questions just by viewing them. And I think they're very impactful to me because I am such a visual person. And I have decided to put the image in the middle, and then write the word and the phrase that I've already shared with you on the top, and then the sutra itself on the bottom, and put them on my bulletin board and let them just keep opening up lines of inquiry, and then continue this practice as over the next, whatever months we have till next year at around this time, when we'll be done with the Sage's Golden Path Retreat. So I will at that point have my whole chart up here, up there with these portraits that are portals. Thank you so much for coming along for this rather long expression. It has been so deepening for me to be able to verbalize it to you. And I think that's one reason I like to talk to you, because an article just doesn't do it enough for me. So I just need to say it. And that's what helps me to understand what's just gone on. And then there's a jumping off point for what's going to come next. And so thank you. Thank you for being here and listening to me talk about my Sage's journey and my portraits as portals. Bye-bye, everybody.